Hi guys, it's Frankie from Frankie Tech. Good to see you guys again, and I'm here to share my Antutu throttling test between the Xiaomi Mi 11, the Mi 10T Pro, and I have here the Note 9T, and each of these phones represents a different chipset as well, the Snapdragon 888, 865, and the Dimensity 800U, which has been a terrific performer in these throttling tests. So if you haven't seen one of these before, basically I'm going to be running the Antutu benchmark on these phones, not once, not twice, but 6 times in 1 hour. And the goal of this test is to really see, do these phones, number one, overheat, but number two, how much do they actually lower their score after 6 intense Antutu benchmarks in a row. So let's not waste any time and let's have a look. Okay guys, so I've switched over to HD recording for this video, and here you see I'll be running the Antutu benchmark. I will also have the CPU monitor in the background measuring the CPU temperatures of these phones. But I've also purchased a brand new thermometer for these tests, measuring the exterior temperatures of these phones, and here you see all the phones are 100% battery life, so we'll also get to see how much these phones drain after running Antutu for 1 hour. So let's go ahead and get started in 3, 2, 1... Let's go. Test again, test again, test again. So let's get started with test number 1. Here we go. Alright guys, so you may have noticed it there, Dimensity 800U, Redmi Note 9T, it crashed during the first test. So I'm going to have it keep going here, but look at these scores here now, 684,000, 581 on the Mi 10T Pro, so very close to the original scores where they started, 44 degrees Celsius now on the Mi 11, 35 on the Mi 10T Pro. That is much higher than I expected, guys. And let's measure the ambient temperature of these phones, 40.5, Mi 10T Pro, 32.2, and let's go into it guys. Test number 2 here, and we'll start the test here on the Redmi Note 9T once it's done. And there you go, the Redmi Note 9T is done. 236,000, not what I expected here from this phone. Let's check the CPU monitor, and we're at 39 degrees, so who would have known, guys, that the 865 is actually the coolest of these three. Let's go ahead and jump into test number 2 here. Alright, and test number 2 completed on these two phones, and look at the Mi 11, 642,000. It just dipped, guys, 40,000 points from test 1 to test 2. 579, still holding its own here on the Mi 10T Pro, and let's check the CPU monitors of these devices. Holy moly! Houston, we have a problem. Did I just see 54 degrees on this? And even still, we're at 50 degrees on the Xiaomi Mi 11, 38 degrees on the Mi 10T Pro. We'll see what the 800U gets up to, but this is pretty shocking results, guys. And what's even more shocking, the display has gone dim on my Mi 11, meaning that it is starting to keep the display darker. I think just 2 tests in, this is a very worrisome result here. But let's go ahead and just wait now for a short moment here for the 800U to complete its test, and then we'll continue with test number 3. But in the meantime, let's measure the ambient temperatures of these phones. 44.5, 34.5. Guys, the Mi 11 is definitely struggling in this test. And oh my gosh, the phone is so hot, I think you could fry an egg on this thing. And just a few short minutes later, and look at this Dimensity 800U, it's back up to almost 300,000. Let's check the CPU monitor real quick. 40 degrees, so still very much in it, and it's managed to give the Mi 11 a little bit of time to rest. But guys, I'm concerned. I'm not sure what's going to happen here with this Mi 11 if I continue this test. If it gets overly hot, or if it shuts down. It may shut down due to the heat. But here we go, guys. Test number 3. And the Dimensity 800U still cool to the touch. Here we go, guys, test number 3, and the Mi 11 is in danger mode. Alright guys, test number 3 completed, 639, so it's holding its own after that big, massive 40,000 drop. 575 on the Mi 10T Pro, still hanging in there, and while the Note 9T wraps up, let's check the CPU monitors for these phones. 50 degrees, 40 degrees, a full 10 degree difference between these phones. Insane. And here's the Note 9T Dimensity 800U has completed the test. Let's check the CPU monitor. 40 degrees as well. But look at the separation between these two phones and the Mi 11. It is just scorching hot, guys. I really do think this is concerning. After just 3 tests, this Mi 11 is overheating. And measuring the ambient temperatures of the phones, 43.3, 31.4, 32.5, nearly a 10-degree difference in the exterior temperature of these phones as well. So let's go to it, test number 4, and let's really hope that this Mi 11, whose display is still stayed in this kind of darkened state, let's hope it can get through this. Alright guys, test number 4 completed, and what did you notice? The Mi 10T Pro finished the test before the Mi 11. Even the 800U is catching up now. Let's check the CPU monitor, how we're doing. 55 degrees, 45, so still a 10-degree difference. And guys, the Mi 11 is scorching hot. I mean, I don't think it can get any hotter than that, but my gosh, what a turn of events here. And meanwhile, the 800U, its score has gone up. Unbelievable. Going to the CPU monitor of this phone, steady 40 degrees, 36, and now measuring the ambient temperatures of these phones, 44.5, 34.6, 33.6. So once again, almost 10 degrees of separation between the Mi 11 and these two phones. And this is incredible, guys. The Mi 11 has dropped even more, another 15,000 points to 625,000. The Mi 10T Pro holding its own, and the 800U has gone up. Unbelievable. But let's go now to test number 5. Here we go. Alright guys, test number 5 completed, at least on the Mi 11. You notice the Mi 10T Pro suffered a bit of a stutter there during this test number 5, and the 800U is almost done as well. But let's go ahead and check. We gotta check this. Look at that, 57 degrees on the Mi 11. That is insane, and I just gotta measure the ambient temperature of this phone as soon as possible. Let's see. 48.3. Guys, that's officially the hottest temperature I've ever measured ambient temperature of a phone. And look at this 800U. It continues to impress. And let's see the CPU monitor, 41 degrees Celsius. Dimensity is legit, guys. It really is. 34.5 ambient temperature. And the Mi 10T Pro should be wrapping up in a second. But once again, look at this, a near 10 or 12 degree separation. And look at this Mi 10T Pro also doing a solid job here. 577, well within the range, but it did get a bit hotter this time. You see there, 47 degrees, 44, but it has not surpassed 50 degrees once in this throttling test. Ambient temperature around 38 degrees. And so here we go, test number 6, the final test, and let's hope that this Mi 11 can survive it. Here we go. Alright guys, wrapped up test number 6, and the Mi 11 dropped just a little bit more, but from where it started to where it ended, we saw a nearly 60,000 point drop on this phone. Meanwhile, the Mi 10T Pro is at 567. It dropped a bit more in this test number 6, but dropped only 13,000 from the original score where it started. And let's check the CPU temps of these phones one last time. 58 degrees, 48 degrees, and it's safe to say at this point, guys, that the Mi 11 definitely struggled through this test. It was pretty incredible to see the difference here between these phones. But how is the 800U gonna finish up this test? 306,000. Incredible. Checking the CPU temperature, 42 degrees, and now checking the ambient temperature of these phones, 48.2, 38.7, and 36.8. So that's it for the throttling test. I'm stopping the timer, and now let's talk about it, the final verdict. Wow guys, so what a test that was, and now let's talk about it. Which phone is the biggest loser of the bunch? Well, I think it's safe to say that the answer is the Xiaomi Mi 11, and I can't even hold on to this phone. It is scorching hot. and you see having dropped nearly 60,000 points. And even right now, guys, imagine it's still at 56, 52 degrees. It's going to take a while for this phone to cool down. But what an unfortunate performance here. And it proves to me then, maybe not in the gaming scenarios where I tested it before, but in this, the most extreme of Antutu tests, in my opinion on YouTube, the Mi 11 definitely overheats, and it definitely had to throttle down the performance. You see the display is also a bit darker, so the Mi 11 is the biggest loser of this test. And second place goes to the Mi 10T Pro. It dropped just around 14,000 points, but I still think it did a solid job here. It never surpassed 50 degrees Celsius in terms of overheating, and just slightly throttled in this 6-time Antutu test. It takes second place. But the number one and win goes to this Redmi Note 9T and the Dimensity 800U. Now, it did suffer a crash in the first test, and that might have denied it the win, but then it came back and test after test delivered consistent results. It also delivered the lowest temperatures. And once you add to the fact that this device was actually able to complete the test almost nearly as quickly as these phones, the Dimensity 800U truly is an incredible mid-range chipset, and it has proved it here. It is my winner of this Antutu throttling test on the Redmi Note 9T. And guys, this also translates to the battery drain that we saw on these phones, 85%. 65% on the Mi 11. Clearly, there's some optimization or something wrong here with this chipset that it is getting so hot and burning through so much power on this phone. Now, let's do hope with more software updates, we can revisit this test on the Mi 11. But for now, you're only looking at a 15% drop on these two phones, while on the Mi 11, it dropped 35% in terms of battery. But hit me up in the comments. Which phone would you pick as the winner? And are you as surprised as I am with the results of the Mi 11? Only now is it even comfortable enough for me to hold, and yet it's still boiling hot. Really unfortunate result here for this flagship from Xiaomi. But hit me up in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And that's it for this video. If you liked it, give me that thumbs up. And if you love the content of Frankie Tech, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon for future updates. Gonna turn on the fan, open the windows, and let these phones cool down. But stay tuned for more great content here on Frankie Tech. And this is where I leave you by saying, this is Frankie Tech signing off. Have a good one. Mi 11. You really let me down this time. Really unfortunate.